I was a publicist, mainly in the television and publishing industries for years. I was actually at ABC News. I was a consultant there when Columbine happened. That was in 1999. I was working from home and my son was coming in from high school and the two of us were watching this horrible thing unfold together. I was so shocked that I said to my son, I said, "Peter, what is going on?" And he said, "Those boys must have been bullied." Just to clarify, we now know that it was not an issue of bullying, that it was an issue of mental health. But then when I asked Peter, and actually when I asked all of his friends, they all said the exact same thing. My son and these kids thought this issue was so big that I thought someday I'm going to do something about that.
Welcome everyone to our channel, Meta Transitions. I am your host, Tricia K. Williams, and I just want to thank you for being here. Just to let you know, upcoming, we have guests that are going to share their transition stories with you, talk a bit about their lives, and also, share tips that are going to help you with your transition stories. Stay tuned. Welcome everyone to another episode of Meta Transitions. Today we have with us Susan Raisch. Susan is the founder of Tangled and the author of Superheroes Wear Mom Jeans. We're so excited to have you with us, Susan.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here, Tricia.
Yes. All right. So let's get right into it. What is your transition story?
Well, currently what I do right now is I help parents raise resilient children. I am an anti-bullying advocate, but that is not what I always did. Okay. So what I do now is very different what I did before. Actually, I was a publicist, mainly in the television and publishing industries for years, working for places like HBO and MTV and Nickelodeon, Sesame Street, History Channel. So a lot of the various different networks and publishing houses like Scholastic. But I was actually at ABC News. I was a consultant there when Columbine happened. So that was in 1999. It was such a horrible tragedy. And I ended up watching this thing unfold live on television. I was working from home and my son was coming in from high school and the two of us were watching this horrible thing unfold together, as a boy was trying to escape, a broken window, trying to get out alive. And so I was so shocked that I said to my son, I said, "Peter, what is going on?" And he said, "Those boys must have been bullied." I was shocked to hear that. And just to clarify, we now know that it was not an issue of bullying, that it was an issue of mental health. But then when I asked Peter, and actually when I asked all of his friends, they all said the exact same thing. So I was so surprised that my son and these kids thought this issue was so big that I thought someday I'm going to do something about that. That someday took me a whole 10 years. It was not overnight. But actually in like 2008, 2009, I decided to devote all of my time to it.
Yes.
So, so that's actually how I got into it.
Okay. No, it's such a, gut-wrenching story, right? And you think about this idea of your life changing or your life's purpose and focus changing based on one event, right? And it sounds like quite a traumatic event for sure. I'm sure that, when I think about that incident as well, a lot of questions cross your mind, like how could somebody, or people do this? Right.
Exactly.
And I could see how within that transition, in a sense, a life transition, a traumatic event happens in your life can sometimes, catalyze this change in, who you want to be and what you want to do in life. And it sounds like you were able to make that switch in your mind at that point, even though you didn't act on it at that point. You were like, okay, I can see how this event impacts people, and I want to do something about that at some point. Yes.
Exactly. I became, very aware of it. But then when I decided to do this, I did not know anybody in this field. I literally had to start from scratch. And I was a publicist for many, many years. So I had a very robust Rolodex. But for this, I had to start from scratch. And I read a book that I loved. It was called Schools Where Everyone Belongs by Stan Davis. Yeah. And you know what? I just picked up the phone and called Stan. And I told him that I was very interested and asked him how I start learning more. He said, start going to the National Bullying Prevention Conference and then meet people there and just, just start talking to as many people as you possibly can. So that's exactly what I did. I actually, traveled the country and talked to experts and went to conferences, talked to parents and teachers and child psychologists just to learn more. And I have to say that I had about 4 takeaways after learning more. And one is that it is messy and it is complicated, and there's no one size fits all solution to it. The other is I was shocked at my very first conference. I sat next to an expert from Harvard, and he explained to me that this behavior actually starts very early, like around age 4. And so I was totally shocked by that. And I thought, you know what, everyone's going to be talking about this. But the more I traveled, the more I realized that no one was talking about that. They were really just addressing it with middle schoolers and high schoolers. Yeah. So then the other thing I learned is that there are fantastic experts out there doing fabulous work, and just not enough people, know about them.
Sure. Yeah.
And then the last thing was the role of the trusted adult, is that are very important because, all these experts are very different. But the one thing they have in common is they all tell kids, tell a trusted adult. And that is all well and good. It is good advice, but it's only good advice if we know how to be trusted. And I thought, that might be my role. I was trying to find where my place is in this big, messy, complicated issue. And, but I did end up gravitating towards helping parents of young children and talk to them about that role. Because if we are telling children that this is your big hope, this is what you need to do, we need to be prepared for it.
Right. I think the big message I'm hearing from what you're saying there is if you want to transition and do something different, you're going to need to know what's going on in that world, right? So research, get some knowledge and understanding, and then carve out a niche, something that is not, being spoken about or talked about that you could then shed light on. And that could be something that you could jump into. And it sounds like that's what you did.
Definitely. And that takes a lot of time. I have to say, it's not comfortable at first because I'm not a researcher. I do not have a PhD in child psychology. I am a person that my entire career was, sharing information. And where is my place here? And I decided, I wanted to be the warm connector between parents and really good information. I had the time, I had the interest in vetting some of these. And I thought, well, finally I settled into that. Like, this is my corner of the issue.
Yes. Yeah. So it sounds like also using the skill of marrying, these two ideas. So using your skills from the publicist world, right? That idea of my skill is to share information. I know that very well, right? So then it's gaining the information you need. And you know what? Sometimes that outside perspective is really important in that because you didn't know anything about child psychology, I'm hearing that you really dug deep to get as much as you could because you're also teaching yourself about this information.
Yes, 100%. And it is such an important issue that I really felt it was extremely important to talk to the people who did have those layers of expertise. So that was extremely important to me. And that's actually why I wrote my book, because I felt it was important to empower parents with information, but to sort of boil it down in a way that was approachable and a way that they could walk away and say, that this resource might work out well for me. And if this doesn't speak to me, something else will. So I felt it was important just to at least share, what I was able to learn by my travels.
Yes, wonderful. Okay. All right. So let's get into the second question. Sort of that, what were stories or points in your story that allowed you to feel like you were accomplishing your goals, or there were transformational points or things that, told you that, you were on the right track?
It was interesting that when people started to learn that this was an issue I was really interested in, I was stopped everywhere. I mean, everywhere I went. I live across the street from a school, and I literally couldn't go out to get milk without someone stopping me and talking to me about this. And every age imaginable. So young people were talking to me. Third graders were pulling me to the side and telling me, what was going on. Parents. I had older people coming to me and talking to me about how literally they would be in their 70s and 80s and saying that they had, experiences growing up that had stayed with them, whether they were the person who was, was being the bully or whether they were the person, on the receiving end of that mean behavior. So I thought, wow, that this is, stay on the train, keep going, because if people are just searching out a way to communicate about this, then, maybe it's still worthy of me just pushing ahead.
Yeah. So getting that motivation from the people around you who, you created the book for, and even people who you didn't create the book for was excited about the content, right, and, really embraced you. And that helped you to feel inspired that you were doing the right thing.
True. It validates you, it validates not me, but it validates that this is important. And, you can, when you work on your own, it's very hard. You're working in a bubble. And some days you think, does anyone else care? But when you are out and about and people do approach you, you think, no, this is impacting their personal lives. And it has a long tail, and it can impact them for, absolutely for years. It can really form a lot of their life and their mindset.
Yes, definitely. All right. So if you were to give, individuals tips, like, if epiphany comes to them or something happens in their life and they want to do something about it, what are some tips that you would give to that person?
I would say, listen to your heart. I would say connect with as many people as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. I would say hang in there, because it can be extremely isolating. And mm-hmm. So, if you can, actually write down a list of people that you can talk to, that you could possibly partner with on something. But, nobody should feel alone. But so that to me would be the biggest tip, is just to keep reaching out. Okay. And you know what? There are days where you don't feel like you're making any progress, but even the smallest baby step will just, it will eventually get there. I read a great quote one time, and it said, "It always seems impossible until it gets done." Mm-hmm. And I think that is 100% true.
Yes, definitely. Wonderful tips, Susan. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us and for, unraveling for us this idea that transitions aren't easy. They come with their own challenges and obstacles, right? But the idea of weathering the storm and sticking it through, but also seeking out for others that might be of help to you in that transition is really important as well. Yes.
No, and that's again, the whole reference to tangled ball. Yes, it is, it is messy, it is complicated, but even your transitions can be a tangled ball sometimes. Yes. But there is hope in taking out one string at a time. And eventually you get down to the core of it.
Yes, yes. I like how you use that symbol of a tangled ball to recognize that, in the middle of your transition or situation, it might look messy like a tangled ball. But then when you're piecing through the strings, eventually you get to the end and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. Eureka, this was, it was hard, but it becomes much more clear.
Yes. Yes, definitely. All right. So I'm super excited about your book and I purchased it, right? So I'm going to be reading it just to learn more about, the things you researched and what you came up with. Because bullying is such an important topic, like you said, at every age group, there's potential for you to be a bully or to be bullied, right? So go out and get Susan's book. Right. And also, Susan, for people watching, if they want to contact you, how can they do that?
They can go directly to my website, tangledball.com, and all the information is there. You can, reach me on my social media platforms, and, you could reach me through email. So I would love to hear from you. You could sign up for my free newsletter. So it's tangledball.com.
Wonderful. All right. So I will be putting Susan's contact information in the description below. So go there if you want to purchase her book. And also if you want to book, any consultations or anything like that to talk about any life experiences. All right. It was great having you, Susan. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Tricia, thank you so much. And keep doing what you're doing.
Yes, definitely. All right, there you have it, folks. Take good care. Well, thank you for watching. We really appreciate that you made it all the way to the end. Please like this video and subscribe. Also, hit that notification bell if you would like to watch new videos that we publish. There might be friends and family that you know who might benefit from the tips that were shared. Just share it with them. And watch another video. Thank you so much.